Hi, Jamie.
Hi, good morning.
Good to see you again.
Hi, it's always good to see you.
Yeah, it really is. But I think can't I guess ignore the fact that maybe we both feel a bit heavier today. And I guess lots of your essays this week have dealt with quite deep, heavy um subjects. And I think that the one that really resonates this week is masking. So I thought maybe we could talk about that today.
Oh, so this week, this current series is indeed heavy, and it comes from, as always, personal experience and so on. And I think, every autistic person has an experience with masking, myself
Mhm.
definitely included. But kind of woven through the pieces, there is the Gestalt mask as well.
Mm,
That isn't, I'm not coming out and doing a full series on what masking looks like and Gestalt processing, but it's woven through the whole thing. And
mm,
and so those pieces kind of become the script garden, if you will,
mhm,
for processing this. And it's not just a childhood thing, obviously, Gestalt processing, but we are we grow up, we grow old, and we get more sophisticated in the masks that we build or that we must build.
mm,
And so that's kind of woven through, you know, masking burnout, rupture, these kinds of things, because there is an expense to
mm,
masking. There's an expense to using someone else's scripts in your life to get by and survive and stuff. And so that's kind of the undercurrent of the pieces this week.
yeah. And I guess it's something that, as you say, the burnout doesn't happen at that one point, at that uh the pinnacle or whatever of the or the that final straw, if you like, that breaks the camel's back. It isn't there. It's way before there. It's a build up. It's building, building, building.
Indeed. And, many of us learn very early in life that how we are is not appreciated, it's not wanted.
Hmm.
And so, whether it's a parent talking about us, thinking that we're non-verbal, meaning we don't understand words, and saying all sorts of unsupportive things, and that we carry that through and we internalize it because our parents say it, obviously it must be true. And then you grow up and you realize that there is a social reward for suppressing who you are, right? And then you carry that tax, that emotional spoon cost, on a day-to-day basis. And, I joked to my wife, to Teresa, that if you meet an autistic adult, a GLP of my age, we're borrowing spoons from the next century to get through today. All right. Autistic burnout is so different than neurotypical burnout because there is no like, oh, I need to pause and I need to take a fortnight or I need to take, a summer holiday and just reconstitute myself. It does
Mm.
not work that way.
No.
And especially as Gestalt processors, it does not work that way. Memory, time, those things don't work in that kind of restorative process. And so, from that standpoint, we we sense the threat and we see the power behind the threat. We make the meanings from it. And, so that's why a lot of my work leans very heavily into power threat meaning framework to kind of explain why we do this. I use Glasser's choice theory
Mm.
as kind of theoretical underpinnings about how somebody can make choices that seem oppositional to sanity, right? But it's oftentimes we're tasked with making the least worst choice,
Yeah.
right? Because that's all that's available to us.
And also
And
safety.
sometimes, yeah,
And sorry, safety. That for me was a theme running through and things that we've talked about before. Masking provides safety in
aye,
in a world, in environments where um or autistic adults and autistic children in order to feel safe. And the only way to be safe, quite literally, their life depends on it, is by masking.
Yes, yes. And I've written a lot about my grandmother and our relationship and so on. And in my older age, I'm kind of thinking that she was a Gestalt processor as well, because the way her and I sounded when we were alone in her place, in her house, was different than how she presented herself to the world. And my house that I grew up in, it was that children should be seen and not heard.
Mm.
So how do you know what I sound like? You don't want me to talk, right? I get to primary school and my first words are punished because I sound different, right? And so I learned very quickly that I need to mask, but not just, polite behaviors and stuff. I need to mask what I sound like. And so that script garden begins again. I go silent, I listen, I focus on tone and intonation. And this is kind of something I think we Gestalt processors do instinctually as we're gathering scripts. We have to find utility. We have to find the things that work. I must use toilet. I need water, these kinds of things.
Mm.
And we see how other people do it. And then we practice it. And so, I did not sound Californian, but I did not sound Scottish either. And that's what kind of kept the bullies at bay to a certain extent. Um, and then you carry that on into professional life and you realize that in America, they they don't really like accents, right? They want everybody, wherever you are, whether it's, Texas or the Carolinas or California, to sound like that. And if you sound differently, it invites suspicion. And so, when I was an adult and I was going as an adult to speech therapy and occupational therapy, um, this was around the time that I was doing some movie work and some television work and having a voice coach. And a lot of the things that they were telling me on how to do, right? There was this one television project from Discovery Channel where it's a multinational team of people around this particular picture from the Holocaust, and they wanted all of us to sound roughly the same, right? And we've hired voice coaches to help this, here's the kind of tone that we want and stuff, and we wanted very harmonious, and it was fun. I learned a lot in that. But when you see the video of it, and it was, I don't know, probably 15, 20 years ago now, um, everybody does sound kind of the same, right? And a friend of mine has seen it, and he says, "No, I can hear you peeking out from in there, right? Different things, right? So it's not completely suppressed, but it's a mask, right? And that's the why Marvel superheroes who are Australian sound American. That every villain in a movie sounds British, right? That Romans sound British because that's the kind of way things are. Every Scottish actor in American cinema sounds like they're from the Carolinas or from Texas. Um, and so, in my life, I've kind of followed that script of this is how you gain professional entry. You sound like everybody else. And relying upon that innate ability that we Gestalt processors have of maintaining fidelity to tone and intonation and pace.
Mm.
Um, I think, again, in responding to power and threat, these are the meanings that I made, right?
Yeah.
Was it the right choice? Was it a falsehood? Was it a forgery? Was it a lie? I don't think so, right? I wanted to eat.
Yeah.
I wanted to provide for my family and stuff, and so we do what we must.
Yeah.
Um, aye,
It goes back to safety, that you
aye,
used it in order to feed and clothe your family and have a roof
right,
over their heads, and to make sure that you had your own needs met when you were in primary school. You needed that mask in order to um, feel safe.
aye, and I don't think those threats go away when you get adults.
No.
I think they grow up too.
Yeah.
And from that standpoint, that pause, that stage zero, every new context for me professionally included a stage zero. I did not know the language of forensic science. I did not know the language of police service. I did not know the language of being a professional protection person, a bodyguard or a ghillie. Um, so I had to just kind of remain silent and see what the language sounded like, what the culture was, what the phrases and the words and stuff. And I've held two elected offices, and I was kind of the same thing, kind of reflecting back. My first month or so, I don't really say much. I'm gathering scrapes, and then because I'm an adult and I can't mitigate fast now, then it sounds like, Jamie didn't say anything, and now she won't shut the shop. She won't shut up. Right. Um, but it's true. And, there was kind of a masking element of that where, this is where I get my money. This is where I get my insurance because this is America. You must
Yeah,
earn
yeah.
all of this stuff through employment. And then when I became a classroom, secondary school teacher, primary school teacher, I did not have time for stage zero. It
Hmm.
was assumed that I knew what I was doing and could hit the ground as the classroom teacher running. And the only way that I could do that without costing too many spoons was to be fully me
Hmm.
and just as authentic as I could professionally be in the moment. And so, the wee Scots came out right away. And it wasn't punished and it wasn't celebrated. It was just like, there's so many accents in the room. Um, Nobody paid any attention at all, really. And I would joke about things, hey, where are you from, Dr. Horrocks? And I'm like, well, I'm in room 206. Like, no, 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 things like that, just to kind of
Yeah.
brighten the mood a bit and take the focus away. But professionally, I think we Gestalt processors, now that we're grown up, we do this all the time.
Yeah.
We gather the scrapes from that professional setting
Hmm.
and we play with them and we echo, we mirror, and that's how we kind of navigate those initial stages. And our success or failure depend upon it. And we know it.
Yeah, yeah. And I guess that's like you said this week, is when we think about Gestalt language processors, we're thinking about the acquisition of language of language development, how it sort of goes through the various stages, and we're thinking in the main about children. But as you say, you're we're always Gestalt processors. We're not just, it's not something that once we get to stage 6 and we've got adequate grammar that's it. It carries on, and it's that whole processing of sensory, relational field, emotional, language, it's rhythm, sound, intonation, accent, dialogue, the whole lot combined. And and I think it's really interesting thinking about that, and how you mask using all of that together.
Yes, yes. And there is a cost to all of that.
Mm,
And speaking very kind of narrowly of Gestalt processing and it not just being a language acquisition thing in
mm,
children. If you are a whole to part person, you're a whole to part person in everything,
yeah.
right? It's not just language. And so I can explain how I write things, being, my struggles with language as whole to part. And I can lecture. It doesn't help you any, develop as a writer. But for younglings, for my discussions with Teresa, whole to part is everywhere, right? I fell in love with her the day I saw her, right? The energy matched the words, the brightness. It was instantly attuned. She was so incredibly interesting to talk to. And that was amazing experience because as an attuned person, you meet so many people in adult life that are empty vessels,
Mhm.
that they're putting on a show, they're after something, and you can feel the disconnect. There's no
Yeah.
connection you're feeling, or you can feel them kind of predatory or whatever. But to feel that instantly, I was just absolutely smitten. I was head over heels. And I've always said to her, I mean, we've been together 30 years now, but I had married her that day, right?
Mm.
And, that's part of that kind of legend, I guess I have of, Jamie Slutty past and all that stuff. But um, I meant it and I still mean it. And hold apart works in relationships as well. Of we start out in love and then things may conspire along the way to knock us off,
Mm.
right? These inconsistencies, these incoherencies, these things that become deal breakers, right? And I have been in love before, obviously. Um, and it's not like one big thing. It's a series of little things. Like, no, actually I don't like that. No, that doesn't work for me. And it might be something they say, or it might be something they do, and then they basically write the script for your exit.
Mm.
And it's not messy, it's not regretful. It's just like this attunement's gone. I can't be attuned there. And the breakup would be clean in that sense. And it's opposite from that analytic, right? First he must buy me the rose, then he must pay for the dinner, and the wine must be thus, and this many glasses, and then there must be second and third date, and on the third date I might give him a peck on the cheek, and this escalation, this ladder towards, okay, well we've been together for a year and a half now, and I haven't heard the question, so the clock's ticking, let's go. It's That's analytic, and it doesn't make any sense to me. And so when I would meet people that way in dating and such, um, it made no sense, right? It
Yeah.
made absolutely no sense at all. And so I don't work that way. And you can see in Gestalt processors, and I kind of think of myself as like at the extreme end of Gestalt processing, um, that is holds apart in everything we do,
Yeah.
right? You invite me onto your program and you say, here are, I don't know, seven basic questions, Jamie. It's no big thing, just seven basic questions.
You're not going to make embarrass me again, are you?
But I see the whole of it, right? And then I'm flooded by it. And if you go back to that Speed of Dark page and look at everything that has come since that invitation, it's massive. And it's spawning other things that are happening. And, my appearance on Barry Presents podcast is kind of the same thing. Oh, Jamie, we're just going to talk about a few things, right? And out of that, I had already written a bunch of stuff, but I had to write three more big pieces. And, then we had to have an intelligent conversation. And, I say that because it just released
Mm.
yesterday. Um, and
Yeah. So if I
everything is
guess,
pulled apart.
yeah.
Oh, crap. This is Dr. Barry Present. The Dr. Barry Present is asking me on his podcast. And we Jamie, I don't know how that happened, right? And so hold apart. Um, and I think about these, I'm asked a very simple question at school. And, now they know enough, like don't overcomplicate things. I start overcomplicated and then I simplify them, and I think about all the different implications of things. And then I work towards the parts of things. And so, if you're a Gestalt processor, you're a Gestalt processor everywhere, not just
Mm.
language.
Yeah. Well, that's a really feels like a good place to stop today. Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure as always. So I will see you next week.
Bye. See you next week.
Thank you as always for your time. And it's always good to have our catch ups. And well done on your
Indeed.
podcast with Barry. That was very, listen to me being so flippant with Barry.
Aye. Oh, it's the Dr.
The
Barry,
Dr. Barry presents. But as
Yes.
we both know, that is not what he's like in the slightest.
Aye. Very gentle, very kind person.
Yeah.
But no, it's always so much fun to see you on Saturday mornings and have our chats, and I look forward to it, and I look forward to the next one.
Perfect. See you soon.
All right. Bye bye.